Welcome to the theater. Take a seat, grab some popcorn, and get ready for another horror movie double bill. This is Friday Night Fratricide.
Good evening, and welcome back to Friday Night Fratricide. I tried to do something a bit different with the intro. It ended up coming a bit creepy.
Yeah.
Didn't like it.
All right,
No,
cool.
wasn't a fan.
That one was better.
That one was better.
Cool.
That's
We'll stick with that one.
More standard, but
Yeah,
it
fine.
works better.
If it ain't broke.
Well, exactly, yeah. We're your hosts, the Happy Brothers. I am Fraser.
And I am Euan.
And we're here on into double digits. No, I was going to say double digits. We're into double digits.
We're
Episode 22.
20. Is this 22?
22.
It's 22.
That's quite on our way.
Yeah.
It feels like just yesterday that we decided to sit down and watch some horror films.
Yeah.
But there we go. We've got the evil full moon silver bullets treat for you today.
Mm-hmm.
It's Lycanthropes.
Lycanthropes.
It's werewolves. We're doing furries.
We're doing furries.
It's furries this week.
It's furry week here on Friday Night Fratricide.
Yeah, we've got a couple of treats for you. Dog Soldiers was my pick.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite films.
Yep.
Absolutely adore this film.
Mm-hmm.
And my backup for
Yeah.
last week / your
My choice
pick
of
was
Ginger Snaps.
Ginger Snaps.
Yeah. Which I hadn't seen before.
I had not seen
You
either.
also hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had heard lots of good things.
Yeah,
I
it's quite
wanted to give it a go.
well renowned as one of those sort of coming of age-esque
Yeah.
horror films.
Yeah, there's a lot in it that's like, it really makes sense to tie it in with the whole werewolf kind of mythology, but hadn't necessarily been done before,
No.
really. At least not as far as I can think. There was maybe some weird films in the 70s that maybe some obscure
Probably,
Hammer
yeah.
films that kind of touched on those themes, but as far as I know, it was pretty groundbreaking in that sense.
Yeah. The one I always get it mixed up with The Craft
It's very similar to The Craft.
because it's sort of that gothic
yeah,
teenage girls
the
magic gone wrong style.
It's funny that you mentioned The Craft because my partner really likes The Craft.
Oh yeah.
And when we finished watching Ginger Snaps, she then spent the rest of the evening watching clips of The Craft on her phone because she was like, it reminded me so much of The Craft.
Yeah.
I really want to watch The Craft again.
It's not one I've ever actually seen.
The Craft.
But that's why I get them mixed up because I always think
It's pretty good.
is it? Okay.
I don't like love it,
I've heard it's
but
alright.
it's pretty
Like,
good as
yeah.
far as like the kind of teenage witch trope. Like
Yeah.
you could do a lot worse than The Craft.
Yeah. Maybe we need to give it a watch.
The
It's
Craft
not really
Legacy comes to mind as something that's a lot worse.
it's less of a horror though, isn't it? It's more of a just kind of
It's got some horror-y elements, but it's not
it's like supernatural
really. Yeah,
high school
it's
drama.
the kind of like quite a dark drama.
Okay.
With obviously like the supernatural
Yeah.
stuff, but it's not really a horror. It's not scary.
Fair enough. We're not watching The Craft. I don't know
We're
why we
not,
spent so long
but
talking
still,
about it. But no, that's fine. Good. Which film would you like to start with tonight?
I don't mind. I watched Dog Soldiers first.
Perfect. So
Great.
did I.
Cool.
Always
Do
good
Dog
when we
Soldiers first.
line up.
Yep.
So Dog Soldiers, 2002, directed by Neil Marshall, who also did Doomsday. Is it Apocalyptica? Or is that the Mel Gibson one?
That's the Apocalypto is the Mel Gibson one, I think.
Is it what
Or
was
actually,
what was the one Neil Marshall did?
I don't know.
It was something like that, Apocalypto.
The only other thing that I know that he did was The Descent.
And The Descent as well. Of course, I forgot The Descent. Yeah.
The Descent's the big one. That was a little bit after this, though.
Yeah.
That was what, 2005?
2005, 2006, yeah. So about 4 years after this. Yeah. This was his first big film. I think it was his first film, full stop, actually. But it's got a really great cast of good British actors. We've got Sean Pertwee, who Gotham is probably his most popular role to date.
Gotham.
But he also appeared in lots of these sort of British low budget horror films.
He's actually very good as Alfred. He might be my favorite on-screen Alfred.
He's all right
As far as the Batmans go.
He's quite brutal.
He is. He has that much more like kind of Cockney geezer type of Alfred, but I think he does it better than Michael Caine. I got to be honest.
That's
a bit of a statement.
That's a statement.
He's better than Michael Caine. He was also in Elementary, the Sherlock Holmes one. Yeah, he plays the detective, whichever one the detective is.
I've not seen Elementary.
I was going to say, is it Lestrade?
Oh yeah, Lestrade, yeah.
Or
that's who he is in other ones. Yeah,
I think he's to him. I think.
Fair enough. We've got Kevin McKidd.
Kevin McKidd
plays Sergeant Cooper, Private Cooper even. You might know him from Grey's Anatomy. Is probably his most famous role.
I've not seen Grey's Anatomy, but I think that's the only other thing that I knew he was in.
Yeah, I have. He's a hunk.
He's pretty handsome.
Handsome man. He also, I think he voices one of the Call of Duty characters.
Yeah.
Is it Soap?
Is that
voices?
Yeah, but that's the Scottish one. I think.
I can't remember which one, but it's one of the main characters for the Modern Warfare series. Liam Cunningham, as well.
Game of Thrones,
Davis,
and other things.
Davis.
Davos.
Maybe
Davros.
Davos. Yeah, Davos. He's in loads of like the sort of British Channel 4 BAFTA winning films from the last couple of decades. Has
he been in something that we've covered already? I get the feeling that he's been in something that we've covered already.
Liam Cunningham.
But maybe not. Maybe I'm making that up.
You're maybe thinking of Unwelcome. He is Irish.
I could possibly be thinking, because that's got thingy in it.
Quite
Game
similar
of
to
Thrones.
Colmini.
Yeah.
Of course, Christian there. And we've got Darren Morfitt, who's not a hugely well-known actor, but he was in an episode of Doctor Who, so I know him. He plays Spoon.
Oh yeah, which episode of Doctor Who was he?
He's in one of the Weeping Angel episodes.
Oh okay.
He plays one like this.
Not the original one. Or
no,
one of the Matt Smith
ones. Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of.
So I recognise him, but he's not. Yeah. I don't think he's been in loads of stuff. And then we've got Emma Cleesby as Megan, but she's not. I don't think she's done much outside of Dog Soldiers, to be honest. Either way, still a good lineup. All the actors are pretty great in it throughout.
Yeah.
I quite like them all. So the film. I've just spent so long talking about the actors. The film starts out. We get a little intro sequence with these two campers, this couple who are out camping in the Scottish wilderness, and they settle down for the night in their tent, and the lady of the two gets like ripped out in the middle of the night by something and gets like torn apart in front of the bloke, and then he gets chomped down as well.
Yeah,
and it's all very brutal, and I actually forget how upsetting this scene is.
Yeah,
like when she's getting dragged out, there's no music, there's no screaming, there's no like growling from the monster. It's just like her struggling and him struggling to hold on to her, and then you just hear this like snap and this spray of blood all over the inside of the tent.
Yeah,
and it's actually really well done. It's not like dramatized. It feels very realistic, which makes it really upsetting.
Yeah. They do a good, I think in this film, just in general, I think they do quite a good job of making it feel realistic. I think that's something that I noticed with the dialogue.
Oh, the dialogue's great.
The dialogue really makes you feel like you're watching real people.
Yeah.
There's something about the way that they talk to each other. You're like, these are real blokes.
Yeah.
This is how real blokes talk to each other.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that definitely adds a little bit to the horror of it. Like, it makes it feel so much more real, and that makes it scarier.
The fact they're all really likable as well, or most of the characters are quite likable.
Yeah.
It makes it even more devastating. But yeah. So that's the kind of... It's not a vignette. We've already been over this. Cold open.
It's a cold open.
Yeah. So nothing happens with these tourists, I guess. We cut to Private Cooper, who is doing like a training exercise. He's being interviewed for a job in Special Forces by Liam Cunningham's character, Captain Ryan. And he offers him the job, but in order to do it, he has to shoot and kill the pet dog that's been chasing them. And Cooper refuses, and Ryan kind of cuts him off, shoots the dog anyway, and then knocks him out. and it's very upsetting. I don't like seeing dogs getting killed.
Yeah.
But it kind of
they really need to spell out that he's the bad
like,
guy.
yeah,
They're like, this is an unpleasant person. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to like him.
yeah, he is a bastard from the start.
Yeah.
And Cooper's got a good heart, you know. So we then cut again, like forward. It's like a month, 4 weeks, I think it is, to another like training session, but this time with Cooper's current platoon. I don't know how big a platoon is. Squad.
I don't know.
So you've got Sean Pertwee plays. Do you know what's his name?
Yeah, it's Wells, isn't it? It's
Wells.
like H.G. Wells.
Harry G. Wells.
Yeah.
H.G. Wells is really cool. So he plays the sergeant, and then you've got I can't remember all their names. You've got Spoon, who's great. Joe is the other one. Teddy and Bruce. This should tell you how often I watch this film.
Because Bruce is called, his full name is Bruce Campbell.
Is it?
Named after the actor,
Bruce
because apparently obviously we'll get to it in the plot, but partly inspired by the vibes of the Evil Dead.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Like kind of being in the cabin and the woods and the whole thing.
So they're on a training exercise, and they've heard rumors about monsters in the forest on the moors at night, and I think they briefly mention that like tourists have been going missing. But they carry on with the exercise. They set up camp for the night, and I love that scene. I love the scene with Sean Pertwee telling the story.
The monologue is really good
about the devil. It's really good. I won't spoil it or go into detail, but if you do watch the film, it's good. I really like it. But they're sitting on the campfire, and he tells like a campfire story, and then this cow falls from a cliff up above, and kind of explodes a little bit. But it's been like ripped apart by a beastie of some kind. So they decide to go and investigate, rather than continuing their mission. Their mission is basically, I think it's like to get to another point in the forest while avoiding the opposing training team, basically. So they decide to divert and try and figure out where the cow came from, and they come across Captain Ryan and his squad, who are actually the opponents, I guess, who have all been killed, apart from Ryan, who's pretty badly beat up. All their equipment's there, so they kind of realize that whatever attacked them, they didn't care about the weaponry. They got in and out dead quick. Ryan's kind of repeating there was only supposed to be one. So we're kind of, something's going on. You're not really sure. So our squad, the main boys, they all load up. They get all the live. They've only been carrying like training rounds, like blanks.
Got blanks, yeah.
So they load up with a proper weaponry and then take Ryan and fire off into the forest. And then this is when it all kicks off. And yeah, Bruce is the first to go. Sadly, he it's his own fault for being an idiot, not looking where he's going, and runs into a tree branch and impales himself.
Yeah.
And then gets ripped apart by the monster. And then Sarge gets attacked as well. He gets like disemboweled. It's pretty graphic.
Gnarly.
Yeah.
It's really very like shockingly graphic. You really all of his and it's like he's on the ground and he's
like crying.
Cooper's trying to help him, and he's like, "No, leave me, I'm dead."
Yeah.
And he's like, "No, we just gotta shove him back in there."
Yeah,
and he starts like pushing his guts into his stomach, and he's screaming about how they won't fit, and he's like, "They're gonna fit," and he's like pushing them in.
Yeah.
It's so gross. I hated it.
I've seen it so many times now, it doesn't faze me.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first time I watched it, I was like, this is brutal.
Yeah. I had only watched this for the first time not that long ago. I'm thinking maybe like a year and a bit, 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I remember being very shocked at how gory this film was.
Very gory, yeah.
There's this, and there's another bit that happens a little later on, that was, I thought, like particularly kind of gross.
There's a couple of bits, yeah. Try to think what bit you're thinking of, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah. So they managed to pick up Sarge. He's bleeding out. His guts are falling over the place. And as they're escaping, they bump into Megan, who's got like a wee Jeep, and she's tells all the lads to get in the Jeep, and then they go to a nearby house to try and escape whatever's chasing them. And then this is kind of the setup for the rest of the film. Like, this is maybe the first act, I guess.
Yep.
And then we've got another hour that's all set in the house, and it's them kind of preparing, boarding up the windows, checking the ammo, figuring out what they're going to do. So it's kind of a base under siege story, I guess, for most of the runtime. It's I won't go through the whole details because it's really just enjoyable to watch, but we get like some great scenes with Sarge. He gets attacked by the dog.
Yeah.
That's nibbled on.
That's the scene that I was thinking of that really grossed me out the first time.
Brutal. Teddy throws up on Captain Ryan's head because of it.
But it's like so it gets his bandage.
Yeah.
But it really looks like it's like gotten a bit of intestine.
Pulling it, yeah.
Apparently they originally were going to have the dog like get a bit of his intestine, and then they were like, no, we're not going to do that because that's too gross. So they did the bandages, but then most people watching the film think it's a bit of intestine anyway.
I did wonder actually watching it this time because it's kind of white.
It's like bloody bandages, so it just looks the same as like a bit of fake intestine.
Because I always thought it was the intestines, but then this time I was like, oh, maybe it's actually like fabric or bandages. But either way, it's pretty gross.
It's pretty gnarly.
But we kind of deal with Ryan is the first. He kind of starts to get better,
very quickly,
and after they hear about all the myth of the werewolf in the forest and stuff, they kind of put two and two together and realize that something's not quite right with him. We find out that the reason that they're in the forest is because of his rivalry with Cooper. And he, as special forces, was tasked to go and capture one of the werewolves and basically used Cooper and Sarge's team as a diversion, as like bait to capture them. They were expendable, as he says. But yeah, it's we kind of gradually pick off all the characters. Teddy is the first to go. They have like a shootout with the werewolves, and then he gets
grabbed it through the window.
Dogs, more like pussies, and then he gets dragged out the window. Dies. This film's full of great quotes, by the way. I'm going to go over loads of them at the end. It's so good. They start at that point. They start trying to figure out how they're going to escape. They make a run. Joe makes a run for the spare Jeep in the shed, or I suppose they're in Megan's Jeep, and they go for the homeowner's Jeep in the shed. There's a pretty brutal scene there as well, where you see Teddy's still alive but getting like slowly eaten by one of the wolves. And then Joe gets got as well. He manages to get the car back to the front of the house, but then turns out there's a werewolf. It's very reminiscent of that scene in Halloween. With you see the breath behind him. And then, he jumps into the back to try and fight it off. He's just like, come on then.
What's one thing I really love about this film is how eager these guys are to just fucking square go the werewolves.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bit, like, right at the end.
One of my favorite scenes. If it's the one you're talking
with Spoon?
About. Yes.
I think he's the one that survives, like, right until the end.
No.
Right?
Cooper.
No, but Spoon's like So you've got Sean Pertwee's character and Cooper kind of survive right until the end. But the last one that survives before them is Spoon. He's just like throwing hands.
Yeah.
He's not even got any weapons. He's just punching it.
So I have a theory about that, but I'll get to it.
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
Silver rings.
No, but that would be good.
That would be good. Silver knuckle dusters.
That would be good. Actually, that's a good idea.
Going at
have them in your emergency survival kit just in case. Yeah. Okay, so Joe gets got. He gets ripped apart in the back of the Jeep, and then they realize that they don't have the Jeep. They can't do anything. But at this point, we notice that like Sarge is starting to get better as well. So we're like, oh no, we know what's happening to him. And we start to like learn a bit more about the stuff. They realize that the house that they're in belongs to the family of werewolves.
Yeah.
Which is a bit of a reveal has like a photo up on the shelf. And then they kind of, right before the third act, they're like, right, they must be hiding out somewhere in the woods. They're probably hiding in the shed, because that's where it's like warm and that's where the food is, I guess, or whatever. So they rig up the gas can of the Jeep to like leave a trail and like shoot it into the shed, and then they light it. Sean Pertwee comes out with like a Molotov and launches it against the ground. Oh, it's such a good scene. I love it. And then it lights the trail and blows up the shed.
Yeah.
And then we realize that, oh no, the werewolves were in the house all along, and Megan let them in because she's a werewolf too.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads us to the final showdown. We get Cooper and Sarge upstairs fighting through the walls.
Yeah.
Like, I'm on the Kazi. He's sitting on the toilet with the
He's got like hairspray
and a lighter. It's
funny.
It's brilliant, man. And then as you said, Spoon goes to go and take one on and literally like boxes it.
Yeah.
For a good few minutes. He takes it on with a frying pan. And right, my theory is he would have killed it.
Yeah.
My theory is he would have killed it if the other one hadn't come into the room.
Very possibly.
I think Spoon is that hard.
He's winning that fight.
Yeah,
for a little while.
He gets a like cleaver and is like proper like hacking it.
Yeah, he is.
Like, I honestly, with all my heart, believe that he would have won that fight.
Yeah.
If the other wolves hadn't come in. But yeah, anyway, sadly he gets got.
Yeah.
And he goes out with a fucking champion line as well. It's like, I hope I give you the shits, you fucking wimp. And spits his chewing gum on the wolf. It's just, beautiful. So yeah, that's the kind of last fight scene. And then we get Cooper and Sarge blow their way out from upstairs. They shoot their way down into the kitchen again.
Yeah.
Sarge realizes that he's going to turn, so sends Cooper into the basement with Sam, the dog, as well. I've not really mentioned. He's just kind of about.
There's a dog.
He's just kind of about. Nice little collie.
Yeah, he is such a good boy.
He is a good boy.
Apparently, the dog wasn't a very good actor.
Oh, really?
Like, they complained that it was like, that's like the worst acting dog we've ever had to work with.
There's a couple of good scenes. Like, see when the wolf gets like up close to it, it like properly like snarling at it. Yeah. Maybe it took a while, like 3 days to film that one.
I just thought that was funny.
Yeah. So yeah, Cooper and Sam go down to the basement, and we get this big emotional scene where Sarge like takes out the photo of his wife, and he realizes he's turning, and he cuts the gas line to the cooker, and as the werewolves come in, he tries to light the lighter, and they knock it out his hand. You're like, no, and then he's like, fuck you. He doesn't say anything, but he like smacks the ignition on the oven, and it all blows up. Yeah, it's great, and it's beautiful, and it's amazing. And we think it's all over.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
Because Cooper like wakes up not wakes up, he gets up from the basement. Somehow fine. I'm pretty sure that would kill him. I don't know how strong the like foundation of the house is, but
no idea.
I guess hot air rises, doesn't it?
It'd have to be fairly strong so that it wouldn't just collapse into the basement.
Yeah. Either way,
I don't know if it's strong enough to withstand the whole house exploding.
I know, it's a pretty big explosion. But he survives, and as he's cutting about in the basement, we find out that Ryan, who has fully turned into a werewolf now, is cutting about downstairs. He's still... they have a sword. They have a sword fight a bit earlier on. He stabs Ryan through the chest.
Yeah.
So he's still got that stuck in him. And we get this scene where Ryan tries to kill Cooper by like holding him and forcing the sword into his mouth, and it like scrapes his teeth,
like a kind of screeching sound it makes.
It's like nails on a chalkboard, man. It's horrible. And honestly, I don't know how he managed to overpower it at that point, but he does.
Yeah.
Sam helps out as well. The dog.
The dog
bites his arm and stuff, jumps up. But he's kind of looking around in the ground and he can't find anything. He's only got one bullet left and he doesn't know what to do. And he finds there's a little dagger that the writer at the very start of the film in the cold open was gifted by his wife, presumably partner, and he picks that up and he stabs Ryan in the chest, and there's like a sort of mystical glow So presumably it was silver. And we're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he takes the gun and he does, just the final line as well. They think it's all over. It is now. And shoots him through the head. And it's like, yes! And then, Sam and Cooper walk off into the sunset together.
Yeah.
Presumably to find help and food and whatnot. We get a great little sort of credit sequence as well. There's like a Polaroid camera that's been going off throughout the film, so we get all the shots that took over the credits
with the like cheapest sounding stock sound effect over the
proper
top.
Shutter sound effects.
Yeah.
And then we get the newspaper headline as well. Joe, throughout the whole film, is complaining that he can't watch the football match, England and Germany.
Yeah.
And the score comes up and it's like 4-1 England.
Yeah.
And we get a little thing at the bottom. It's like, was it werewolves ate my platoon?
Something, a picture of
Newspaper
Cooper
from
looking really disheveled. Yeah.
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 It's such a good film, man. I hope this isn't another Sunshine situation where it's a film I love and you hate it.
It's not. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Okay. I can tell I don't like it as much as you do, but I definitely don't hate it. It's a good time. I would recommend it if someone's wanting like a werewolf film. It's worth watching.
It's got a lot of rewatch like potential as well. It's just like a fun
It is a good
film.
It is a good fun film. The characters are a lot of fun. Like I say, the dialogue works really well, where it's like you really believe that these are just guys.
It feels very authentic, yeah.
The way that they're talking about football, the way that they're like ribbing each other throughout the film, and they're kind of winding each other up. And then you get these like really quite serious moments where they're talking about like being in the military and knowing these people that died and whatever. It works very well.
Yeah.
Special effects are really pretty good.
I think they're not bad.
Like the gore is very effective.
Yeah.
Like, the scene with Sergeant Wells getting cut open.
Link sausages falling out his tummy.
Yeah. It's very, it's like realistic enough that it really grosses you out.
Yeah.
Like the wolves look good. They're like very tall. They had like, they were like dancers. They got dancers rather than like stuntmen.
Right.
Specifically so that they would look kind of more
they're
elegant.
really,
and they're like on stilts. So they're really tall and like
when they come into the room, they're like sort of crouching and they have to put their hands on the ceiling and everything. It's quite effective.
Yeah, they do look really good.
I seem to remember reading that they didn't want full shots of the werewolf in this because they didn't like how they looked.
Yeah.
They weren't a huge fan of how they looked, like the practical effects on the wolf. So that's why there's a lot of like up until like the final few scenes.
Yeah.
There's not really that many shots of the wolf in full focus.
Yeah.
But I think they look all right.
I think they look good.
But also,
I think they look good.
It works.
It does work. Having them not be super visible works really well.
Yeah.
That's actually something that I really liked about Ginger Snaps. That we can get
I was going to say that as well. Yeah,
like
I noticed that.
Not showing too much, especially a creature like a werewolf, is hard to get to look realistic.
Yeah.
And obviously you don't want to rely on CGI. I'm really glad that this film doesn't have loads of CGI in it because 2002 CGI would look like shit. So I'm really glad that they went all practical. I think the practical effects are good, but they definitely benefit from having it not be super in your face. You like your brain fills it all in, which is always good in a horror film. Yeah,
I agree.
It's good.
So what did you rank it then?
I gave it a 2.5.
Oh, that's low.
Which is pretty low. I don't love it. There's bits of it that kind of bug me. I think the kind of middle of the film definitely gets a bit repetitive. Like the scene when they're like fending off the werewolves goes on for quite a long time. And there's a lot of basically just like the werewolves banging on the door from the outside and the sounds of the gunshots. And that's it. For like, there's like a solid maybe 15-minute scene that's pretty much just that. It's just kind of cutting around the different characters and it's just that.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah. It's like, it's not bad. It just goes on a bit too long.
Yeah.
I think some of the dialogue is a bit cheesy, as much as I really like some of the realisticness of it, the realism.
Are you talking about Megan's lines?
Megan's lines are pretty cheesy.
Because they're pretty cheesy. Yeah.
I think dogs more like pussies.
I love that line.
I did not like that
love
line.
that
I think
line.
that's I think that's a bit too much. The line before Megan turns into a wolf says, "You may think all women are bitches, but I'm the real thing."
Yeah.
Terrible.
It sounds like great.
No, it sounds like something from a bit of Twilight fan fiction, is what it sounds like to me.
And she says something like, sorry boys, but it's just my time of the month, or something like that. It's that's probably, if I have to find one criticism of the film, it's those lines.
That bugs me.
You lean into it.
Like if that's the kind of thing that you can lean into, I'm not going to fault you for that. That's like fair. if you're into it, it's not like horrible and unwatchable. It's a bit fun. I think it's a bit too silly. Okay. I don't particularly love the fact that the opening doesn't tie in with anything else. You get it, like they like set something up right at the beginning. It's maybe 5 minutes, and then it pays off right at the very end. But there's no other connection.
I like that it's a really subtle thing.
I just think that
this little dagger
that
he's gifted actually is what comes back to save the day.
Really
I
like
that.
Chekhov's silver letter opener.
It is, yeah.
It bugs me a little bit. I think this is just like a personal preference thing. Like a lot of the gripes that I have with the film aren't necessarily like this is poorly done. It's just stuff about it that I don't particularly like.
That's fair.
Like I think the music's not great. The music kind of reminds me of like a sort of PS2.
It is a little bit. It reminds me a bit of Worms.
That's actually exactly what it made me think of.
Worms. It's that
makes
kind
me
of
think
military
of Worms, the sort of
kind of
very cheesy, generic military kind of soundtrack.
Yeah.
Which I think they could have done a lot better than that.
Yeah.
Visually, it's like nothing to write home about, but it's pretty good. Like the kind of cinematography.
That's good. The black and white shots.
Like the wolf POVs.
I think they're pretty.
They're
cool
good.
And well done. And the model work as well. Like the model of the buildings
when they have the house blowing up. Like it's just like a miniature. And it looks really good.
I think they're pretty cool.
Yeah, like I say, it's kind of ups and downs. A lot of my criticisms are more personal preference rather than
sometimes you don't vibe with the film, and that's fair enough.
I would watch it again. I was quite happy to watch it a second time.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite werewolf film.
Okay.
But it's not bad.
Fair enough.
What did you give it?
I gave it a full 5.
You gave it a full 5?
I gave it a full 5.
I'm not surprised.
Absolutely adore this film. Yeah. I think it just blends action, horror, and comedy perfectly. I think it's a prime example of how those three genres can interact well if done right.
Yeah.
We've been overall, but like the cinematography I think is pretty good. It's nothing like outstanding, but for the film that it is, I think it's pretty good. All the main actors are great. I think they all do a pretty good job. The dialogue, as you say, is really like engaging and funny, and it makes you actually care for the characters. The practical designs of the wolves are great, despite them for some reason thinking they weren't. I don't know. Like maybe I'm imagining that fact. I don't know. But I'm sure I read that somewhere that they deliberately kind of didn't show them in full view. But I think they look great. I think they're really menacing. And yeah, just I don't know. Just overall, it's just a fun time. It's just a great time. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I'm going to go over some of my favorite quotes.
Yeah.
I think I've done one of the ones written down. One of my favorite quotes of all time, and I always forget about it when I'm thinking of favorite quotes, but it's so good, is when they're first gearing up. They gear up at Ryan's camp to escape the forest, and Wells says, if little Red Riding Hood should show up with a bazooka and a bad attitude, I fully expect you to chin the bitch. And I love it. Yeah. I love it. It's so good. But yeah, Sean Pertwee, such an understated actor. He's really great, and he doesn't get the not respect, but he doesn't get the roles that he deserves, I don't think. He could be in a lot more. But oh well.
Yeah.
He's good. Yeah, great film. Love it.
Yeah.
Really love it.
Good.
Cool. So now for a film that neither of us had seen before.
Yeah, shall we move on?
Ginger Snaps.
Talk about Ginger Snaps.
Want to go with Ginger Snaps?
Ginger Snaps is good. Ginger Snaps was came out in 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Directed by
John Fawcett.
John Fawcett. There you go.
Just to save you Googling it.
Yeah, thank you. I did. I had it open.
Okay.
It was just in a different tab. John Fawcett, who is otherwise best known for doing Orphan Black.
Oh yeah.
The TV series, hasn't done a huge number of films. He did one that was called The Dark with Sean Bean.
Doesn't ring a bell.
But there you go. That was the only one that I really knew of. He did Ginger Snaps, and then he did the Ginger Snaps. There's a sequel and a prequel.
Well, Tatiana Maslany is in the sequel, I think.
Is
She's in
she?
Ginger Snaps 2, I think.
Oh, there you go. I didn't know that. Who's
in
in Orphan Black?
Black.
Yeah. So Ginger Snaps focuses on the two main characters, the Fitzgerald sisters, Bridget and Ginger Fitzgerald, who are weird goths.
Yep.
And then werewolves happen, basically, is kind of the overarching plot.
It's a pretty succinct summary of it.
So you've got the two main characters. So Bridget Fitzgerald is the slightly younger one. They're roughly the same age, played by Emily Perkins. And Ginger Fitzgerald, the slightly older one, is played by Catherine Isabel, as we mentioned last week. Catherine Isabel's really good.
I love Catherine Isabel.
She's been in some fun films.
Mm-hmm.
She's been in quite a lot of horror films. She did American Mary, Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, so she was in Hannibal as well.
She was in the TV series. See No Evil 2.
With Kane Hodder?
Not with Kane Hodder.
Oh.
With Kane from WWE. The Undertaker's half brother, or whatever the plot of fucking WrestleMania is now. Yeah, I'm not really a wrestling guy, but it's the one with Kane from the WWE.
Is that not his second name? I thought that was Kane Hodder.
No, Kane Hodder's Jason.
Maybe that's why I'm thinking of it.
Yeah, getting confused.
Okay, yeah, never mind. Ignore me.
Yeah. Anyway, right. So the two of them, they're in school. You can tell right away that they're these weird outcasts. The film, well, kicks off with a woman and her very young son finding their dog dead.
What's with the dog mutilated?
Deaths, man? There's a lot of dog deaths in this film.
I was not a fan of that.
I
was watching it with my dog to cover his eyes.
Put his ears over his eyes. Every so often when we're leading up to watching a film, if I get really paranoid that it's going to there's going to be something in it that's going to freak me out, like I did it with Possum, and I'm glad I did, because there's some stuff in Possum that makes me pretty uncomfortable. I didn't really want to. I'm glad that I wasn't it didn't come out of nowhere. You know what I mean? There's a website called doesthedogdie.com.
Oh, I have seen that, yeah.
That's got it's basically content warnings for films.
Does it have, it has more than just dogs.
It has more than just dogs. I think that's what it started out as.
Yeah, I remember when it was first started.
But then it has now evolved into various sort of phobias and trigger mentions, and it's good. It's
that's handy.
If you have something in particular that makes you really paranoid about watching certain types of films because you're worried it's going to come up, go and check that. It's a good resource. I do every so often. I think Possum's the only one that I've watched that the only film we've covered that I was particularly paranoid about it. I did find it kind of funny that it's called doesthedogdie.com, and I'm like, this movie's got a lot of dead dogs in it. It did make me think of that. Anyway, so this woman and her young son, they find their dog dead and mutilated, and it's pretty sad. And then we cut, and it's in the same neighborhood. We see Bridget. She's going about. She's collecting kind of household stuff, and then she goes to see Ginger. The two of them are planning this little project. Ginger starts talking about how she's wanting to kill herself. They talk about how they've got a suicide pact. Yeah. They're going to kill themselves before they turn 16.
Yeah.
Or they want to be dead by 16 because they hate the world. They're just angsty goth teenagers. It's really great. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun. They're just so intense and weird. And then the titles of the film play out over this project that they're doing for school. They've made a film of fake deaths, basically. They've staged a bunch of deaths for themselves, hangings and poisonings and There's one where Ginger's gotten run over by a lawnmower.
Yeah.
And she's got like all these like fake guts and she's like impaled on a fence and all this. It's like very high production value.
It looks pretty good. Yeah.
You know, if someone did something like that for a photography class for high school, I imagine it would get a pretty good grade because it's
the whole class cheers.
But yeah, the class loves it. Like the teacher thinks that they're insane, as you probably would if you were a teacher, but the class loves it. They then go and you see that it's like the two of them, they kind of enjoy each other's company, but everyone else sort of stays away from them because they're a bit weird. They are overheard talking to each other, making fun of a girl in their class.
Trina, her name is.
Trina, who's like popular. They view her as being a little slutty. They kind of make fun of her for like trying to get guys' attention. I'm not going to criticize her for that because I'm not here to slut shame.
Depends. Is she 15?
It's true. They are. I think they're supposed to be like 15, 16. So maybe I should be
I kept thinking about that throughout the film, and it made me a bit uncomfortable.
The fact that they're supposed to be 15, 16 is strange.
I mean, if they're 16, that's fine.
Well, yeah.
I mean, from a like consent perspective, I guess.
Yeah.
From a legality perspective.
Yeah.
If they're any younger than that, then some of the stuff they show on screen is not okay.
I was going to say it's in the States, but it's not. It's in Canada.
It's in Canada.
And I don't actually know what the rules are because in the UK, the age of consent is 16.
That's true, actually. I suppose it could be
in the US,
in
it's 18. I don't know what it is in Canada.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not like... I don't want to get too deep into this.
No,
We're not going to think
like
about it too hard because it might gross you out.
It's
but
just... it made me a little bit uncomfortable.
Worth mentioning that, I think.
Later on.
So they are overheard by some other girls, and then it turns into a bit of a fight while they're playing field hockey. Bridget gets bashed down onto the ground and lands on another dead dog, which I guess they somehow didn't see when they started playing just on the hockey pitch. And the two of them decide that they're going to start off. They're going to like get revenge on her for being such a bitch by... they're not going to kill her dog. They're going to kidnap her dog and use like the stuff from their project to make it look like the dog has been killed because there's been this spate of dogs getting killed and like eaten basically by some creature. So they go out to find the dog. They wind up finding not her dog but another dog in a playground that's been killed. And at that point, they then get attacked by a werewolf. They get attacked by a creature. They're kind of run around. Ginger gets grabbed and pulled out into the woods. Bridget's running after her. The creature then runs out onto the road and gets hit by a van. And Bridget and Ginger like run back to the house to try and make sure that Ginger's okay. She seems to be really injured, but then as soon as they get back to the house, she's like, the wounds are already healing up. And of course, at this point, we know as the audience, we know what's going on. She's been infected with the lycanthropy, and is starting to turn into a werewolf. This was kind of the point where, because it takes a while to get back into any more like heavy practical effects. This is the only bit where we really see anything here, and it's lots of quick cuts. It's lots of like close-ups. We don't see much. This is the point where I was really like, I appreciated that they didn't do anything super up close.
Even the shot of like the werewolf getting hit by the lorry, but it's not a lorry, like by the van.
Yeah.
It's very quick. You don't really, you can see like a silhouette of it, and then it just kind of explodes.
It's just
into blood and guts.
Yeah.
And it works really well.
Yeah. Then Ginger, along with Bridget, starts getting very paranoid.
We should mention that
what's going on.
What else is going on in Ginger's life at this point? Oh,
yes. So,
which is a whole...
she, towards the beginning of the film, she has some back pain and is talking about how she thinks that it's just from doing this project and like playing dead.
Yeah.
And her mum's like, oh, do you think it could be cramps? Maybe you're finally going to start menstruating because you're a late bloomer. And she's like disgusted by the idea that that means what it is. Right before they get attacked by the werewolf when they're handling this dead dog, they make a comment like, oh, you've got some blood on you. She's like got some blood on the inside of her leg. And of course, it's not from the dog. This is her menstruating for the first time.
She's got the curse.
She's got the curse, yeah.
As she says.
So then it like, yeah, big parallels between like menstruating and being a werewolf, I guess.
Bit on the nose.
It's a little,
that is the whole kind of...
It's a little on the nose.
Metaphor of the film,
yeah.
But it's... it works well. It makes sense.
It does work well. There's all the comments about like 28 days and the lunar cycle and whatever, which makes sense.
Cravings and all
that. And they kind of they go to the school nurse and they start talking about like, is this normal? Is that normal? Yeah. And the nurse is like clearly trying to be supportive, but is just not questioning anything that they're asking. So they're kind of like at cross purposes because they're saying like, oh, is it normal for there to be a lot of blood? Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, that's perfectly normal. But like, obviously it's, they have a different idea of what a lot of blood is. And it's like, what about like hair sprouting in weird places? Because like Ginger, the wounds, the like wolf scratches are growing like wolf hair out of them. And she's like, what about hair in strange places? And she's like, that's perfectly natural. The nurse it's totally normal.
Yeah, she's like surprisingly down to earth though. Like
she's like very supportive.
Yeah.
Very responsible. Like when they leave, she's like, oh, you're a woman now, take a condom so that you don't get pregnant, which is... good.
Yeah.
It's responsible.
Canadian healthcare, I guess.
Yeah. Good for the Canadians, man. At this point, we kind of get introduced a little bit to Sam, who is the guy who was driving the van, and also the popular girls. They're not dating. I think he sells her drugs.
Yeah, and she fancies him.
And she fancies him, but he's not interested in her.
Yeah.
We kind of get introduced to him because Bridget goes to him and is like, did you see what you hit with your van? And he is immediately like, yeah, it was a werewolf. I killed a werewolf with my van. And I think he's kind of like trying to wind her up. Like he's sort of taking the piss, but also Bridget is like, yeah, maybe it was a werewolf.
Yeah.
And then they kind of...
And they're both like, oh.
They're like, oh, maybe it was. And they kind of bond. It kind of escalates a little bit from there. Ginger starts getting very weird. There's like a guy, Jason, who's been kind of flirting with her, and at first she's not interested, but now she suddenly is interested, and they start going out, and she starts being really dismissive to Bridget, even though up until this point they've practically been like joined at the hip. She's being like really rude and like, oh, you're just jealous of me, you get the fuck out of my life, don't be in my room, you're lame and young and I don't like you anymore. And it's, you know, obviously the parallels and siblings falling out when they're teenagers.
We never had any of that, did we?
Sure. Of course not. Of course we didn't have we had an idyllic childhood.
Yeah, man.
We were so lovely to each other 100% of the time. And then Ginger grows a little tail, which luckily is something that you never did.
That is true. Yeah,
you grew a little tail.
Well, as far as you know,
as far as I'm aware. They then. I have a note here, but I'm struggling to think of exactly what it is that I'm thinking of.
What's the note?
Oh no, I don't know what it is. So at this point, Ginger goes out with Jason.
Yes,
she's gradually getting a little bit more. Kind of, you start to worry that something's up with her. Like, you know that the audience knows that she's turning, but obviously Ginger and Bridget don't really know what's going on. Mm-hmm. She goes out on this date with Jason. They're in the back of the car. They're getting a bit amorous, as teenagers have a tendency to do in the back of cars. And Ginger is being like very aggressive. And then it kind of hard cuts. She's back in the house. She's in the bathroom throwing up blood. Mm-hmm. And Bridget comes in and is obviously very worried about her and is like, what's wrong? And she says, she's talking it like, I killed him. And then he's in next door's garden.
Yeah.
And Bridget goes out, and of course you're made to think that it's Jason that's been killed. Bridget goes up and it's actually the next door neighbor's dog.
Yeah.
That's been killed. And Jason turns out to be fine. They just had sex. Yeah, the note that I had was the parallels between sex and death are pretty funny because they actively parallel it, that you don't know exactly what it is that Ginger's talking about.
I made that exact same note. Yeah.
She's talking about like like, oh, there's a lot of squealing and writhing, and then suddenly he's done.
It's all over. Yeah.
It's all over, and you don't know if she's talking about having sex with Jason or killing a dog. And there's actually quite a lot of that throughout the film.
It's full of metaphors.
It's
full of metaphors.
It's like the kind of comparisons between sex and death is like one of the big things that it's a big recurring theme throughout the film. It's a very weird thing, but I think they do it pretty well.
It works.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it works.
At least it's a very kind of goth metaphor. It's a very goth film, actually.
It's very goth.
The whole time I was thinking, I'm really glad I didn't watch this when I was 16. It would have permanently altered my brain chemistry. Like, it's mad.
Yeah.
And then they also kind of throw in this metaphor for werewolfism as being kind of like an STD.
Yeah.
Because Jason winds up turning as well, although it, I guess, presents slightly differently. He has like all these marks on his face, and he becomes very aggressive, and he's like, his teeth go all sharp.
Yeah, it's just kind of affects different teenagers differently.
Yeah, that's true.
Puberty affects boys and girls differently as well.
That's a very good point. Yeah. So we get that Jason starts being a bit weird. He gets very aggressive with Bridget in the school. Then we have another run-in with the popular girl whose name I keep forgetting. Trina. They have another run-in with Trina. This time Ginger properly starts beating the shit out of her.
Yeah. Like
properly going to town and like breaks her nose. And then later that night, Trina confronts Bridget and is like, "You're fucking bitch sister, I'm gonna kick her ass," or whatever, and starts threatening Bridget as well. That turns then into a confrontation with kind of the three of them. Ginger like drags her into the house and starts roughing her up, and they start fighting. And Trina tries to wrestle away with a knife, but winds up slipping and cracking her head on the counter and dies.
Classic trope. Like, they're having a fight and then she accidentally just dies, slips in some milk and breaks her neck or whatever. So they need to cover up her body, so they go to like bury it under the shed. And Bridget says, "If I wasn't here, would you eat her?" And Ginger's kind of disgusted and sort of laughs it off and is like, "Oh, of course I wouldn't eat her. That'd be like fucking her." I really like that. That's again, it's that like killing someone and having sex with them as being like so kind of like blurring the lines and very intimate acts,
throwing them. Yeah. Which is pretty good. We then have a little bit more. So like Sam kind of comes back into the picture. He's obviously very worried. Bridget makes him think that she's the one that's turning into a werewolf. He walks her through getting a cure with this thing called Monk's Hood, which is similar to Wolfsbane, apparently. And he's like, maybe if we get it and do whatever alchemy nonsense to it, we can make it into a cure. They will accidentally test it out on Jason because Bridget has some of it and then gets attacked by Jason and stabs him. And he's then fine.
Gets cured.
He's cured. So they've realized that it works. Bridget then goes... She's going to get more. She locks Ginger in the bathroom and is going to get more of the cure. And it's at this point, it's Halloween. It's leading up to Halloween, and there's some big party that's going on that evening. It wouldn't be a goth film if it wasn't Halloween.
Halloween party.
The autumnal vibes in this film are pretty peak as well. There's lots of
cinematography is quite orange.
Yeah, it is.
Quite a lot of,
it's very good. So Bridget locks Ginger in the basement to go and get more of this cure. By the time she comes back, Ginger's broken out. She's gone to the school. She's has a run-in with the guidance counselor and kills him in the office. Bridget comes in and kind of is gonna try and help cover it up because they're not kind of fighting against each other at this point. Bridget's still trying to help Ginger, and Ginger's very defensively playing the like, I had to do it. He was gonna find out I was gonna go to prison. It's gonna be this whole thing. So Bridget's trying to play defense, and then when Ginger kills the cleaner without him really having done anything wrong, that's when they sort of turn against each other. Ginger wants to turn Bridget, and starts attacking her, makes a comment, like, as she's going to kill her, makes a comment about, like, we're barely even related anymore. And it's another one of those, like, it's kind of gross, that, like, blurring the lines between, like, killing and sex kind of thing.
I never really thought about that, but
it's that sort of, like, kind of incestuous vibes.
Yeah.
It's a little uncomfortable.
Bit weird.
But nonetheless interesting.
Yeah.
It then evolves into this big, you've got the big blowout conclusion. They go to, it's like Sam's hosting this big Halloween party. They go there. Their mum finds out about the body under the shed, so she's like, I'm just going to burn the house down. We can get away. We can start over. Just us girls. It'll be fine. She's such a good mum.
Like, what about Dad? I was like,
he'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
We'll just fuck him. He's fine. We'll just leave him in the house when we burn the house down.
Yeah.
I don't think they're actually planning on killing him. They're just planning on leaving him behind. And then that turns into they need to get Ginger, who gets knocked unconscious by Sam. They get her back to their house so that they can get the cure for her. Mm-hmm. But then she goes fully wolf. Over the course of the kind of third act, she's gradually turning more and more, like, her teeth are getting longer and sharper, her hands are turning into claws.
Like, sort of a Buffy style.
Yeah, it's that sort of forehead makeup. Yeah. Like, kind of her nose extends out into her forehead type of thing. And her eyes get very sort of dog-like. And her hair changes color as well. She goes blonde. She like kind of like, it starts off as streaks and then she gradually goes fully blonde by the end of the film. She's fully wolfed out in the house. They're then trying to kind of get the cure sorted so that they can get her before she breaks out, I suppose, and starts killing everyone else.
Well, at this point, they've also touched hands.
They've also touched hands. That's true. Bridget, to convince her to come back to the house, cuts her palm open and puts her hand on Ginger's hand so that she is also infected.
Silly move.
And they have that because they talk about right at the start of the film. They sort of foreshadow that by talking about them having this blood pact. Mm-hmm. You know, I said that they talk about how they were planning on killing themselves before they turned 16 or whatever. They had a blood pact when they were young that's like out by 16 or dead on the scene or something. They say I can't remember what it is they say. But you do see they've got like scars on their hands from obviously they've done it before. So it's then tying that back in. They do that and it's the thing. Yeah. And we get the final scene. Sam gets got by Ginger and then it's sort of Bridget trying to get the cure to cure Ginger before she either before she dies or before she has to kill Ginger herself. There's a great scene after Sam's been gotten when he's like dead or dying. He's on the ground and he's like covered in blood and Ginger, fully wolfed out, is on one side, like lapping at the blood on the floor. And Bridget comes over, and I guess to try and... I don't know if she's trying to lull her into a false sense of security, or if she's actually contemplating just going full wolf along with Ginger.
I got the impression that it was that she was like starting to give in.
Yeah.
And then kind of changes her
mind.
And
then manages to pull back or whatever. She kind of goes over and starts picking up the blood off of the floor with her hand and eating it. Yeah. Which is, it's very slimy.
It's very
slimy blood.
I love a goopy corn syrup.
I love a goop. You know I love a goop and a slime.
Yeah.
And then they have the final confrontation. Bridget stabs Ginger through the chest and then she dies.
Yep.
The end of the film is Bridget kind of like holding her fully wolfed out dead body.
Yep.
We get a bunch of there's like Polaroids on the wall of the two of them together, and then it's the end of the film.
I found it quite emotional.
It is very emotional.
When they were going over the Polaroids, I was like, oh.
Polaroids. It's sad. They loved each other so much. And then and now one of them's dead and the other one's going to turn into a werewolf.
Would you kill me if I would turn into a werewolf?
If I had a cure, I would probably cure you.
Okay.
What kind of werewolf are we talking? Are we talking Ginger Snaps werewolf or?
I don't know. That's actually one thing that I did like about this was that they're quite early on. They establish I think Sam says something like, "We're not talking about like traditional werewolf here because I killed that one with my car."
Yeah.
So we don't know if it's like silver bullets or whatever.
Yeah, they say something about like, oh, I would need to kill myself with silver, and
Yeah.
he's like, well, I killed it with a van, so I think the rules are out the window.
Yeah. But
Which
I
is
liked
good.
that.
Yeah,
I liked that
yeah.
it was sort of it wasn't the traditional like there is no cure, because that wouldn't have made for as good a film, I don't think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess only in this case because there isn't a cure. Otherwise, is there?
I don't know.
There's a cure in Van Helsing.
There is.
There's
They
a
do
cure
have a
in that
cure.
one. Can't
They do
remember what
have
it
a
is.
cure. I don't know.
Maybe there is a cure. Maybe there is a cure for
werewolfism.
I don't know.
There you
Need to
go.
look into that.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd probably just kill you.
Okay, that's. I honestly, it's fine.
Yeah.
I understand.
Or we could both be werewolves.
We could be the Wolfy brothers.
If it was like, like Buffy style, where it was just like one night a month, or like 1 or 2 nights a month, you just have to lock yourself up in a cage and just sleep it off.
Yeah,
That'd be fine. That'd be pretty good. You get extra strength. You get your wolfy powers during the day.
that's true.
You just gotta buy a fucking BDSM bed to make sure that you don't go off on a rager.
What do you mean by?
You gotta break your BDSM bed out of the closet or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I could probably cope with that.
Yeah, it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
That is
there you
Ginger
go.
Snaps.
That's the film. That's Ginger Snaps.
Yeah.
It's very goth. It's very weird.
It's very goth.
What did you think?
Cannot quite understate how goth it is.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I really liked it. I for some reason, I don't know why, I knew of the film.
Mhm.
And I knew of some kind of scenes from it. I think I'd seen them in like documentaries. I want to say one of them was in Shudder's 101 horror movie moments, but I actually don't think it was that.
I don't
it
know.
in.
I can't think.
No, I don't think it was. It was something else I was watching. So I had seen clips from it before. But for some reason, I thought they were gay. I didn't
Right.
realize they were sisters.
Mm.
I thought it was like a lesbian coming of age
Oh yeah,
mixed with werewolves. So that was a little bit disappointing when I started watching it. But I'm just kidding. They're literal children.
Yeah. We still love a bit of queer representation.
I mean, yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah. But no, it was good. Really enjoyed it. I think the acting from the two leads and Mimi Rogers is the mother as well.
Yeah,
I thought it was great. Everyone else was kind of just there.
they're not bad. I think
They're fine.
the only person I thought of as being like notably not necessarily even bad, just a little over the top, was the actor playing Jason.
Yeah, he was a bit much.
Everyone else was kind of passable.
Yeah.
I thought Emily Perkins and Catherine Isabel
I
both
thought they
gave
were
like
great.
very good
I thought they were
performances.
really good. Yeah. Like actively really good.
Yeah.
The quality of the film is a bit like lo-fi, like technically it felt quite low budget, but then when I was looking at some of like the scenes and the setup and the breakable furniture and the blood and the special effects, like it clearly wasn't that low budget.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. It must have been a conscious choice, but
Yeah.
it has occasionally feels like that sort of student film filmed in your back garden feel
Yeah.
to it, which I'm not a huge fan of, but it doesn't. It didn't ruin the film or
Yeah.
anything. It just that if I'm picking at things that I didn't enjoy,
Yeah.
and yeah, there was a lot of the metaphors and stuff. I'm sure were probably more applicable to women, I guess.
Yeah.
Rather than me, but I can appreciate it.
Yeah, we can't really comment on the whole menstruation
That's- yeah.
thing as two cisgender men who
Yeah.
have never menstruated a day in our lives.
Yeah,
But it's interesting stuff. I think like the whole like full moon being a representation for fertility and ovulation,
yeah.
like it works really well. Like the two werewolves and menstruation like blend together really well, and it's kind of weird that it hadn't been done before this point.
I think,
or in a film at least, there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of like kind of folkloric stuff that
yeah,
explores stuff like that.
literature. But yeah, it works. It works. It's a little bit on the nose in places, but overall, I think it's a cool angle for a film like this. So yeah, I really had a lot of fun with it. I liked it a lot more than I thought I would.
Yeah.
After the first 5 minutes, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be my jam. But no, I really liked it. It was good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars.
4 out of 5.
Yeah.
That's a good showing.
Yeah.
4 out of 5 is a good score. I gave it a 5 out of 5.
Really?
I loved this film. I really, really enjoyed it.
You're mad for the goths.
I'm mad. I love a goth. I love a goth film. Just a goth in general, frankly.
Yeah.
I just thought it was a really, really good time. It was like, it had that sort of grungy 90s kind of nihilistic feeling that you get from something like a Freaks and Geeks, but obviously just like with that big injection of horror and like the werewolfism that was also done really well, and I feel like it just like blended that in a really good way. Just a very enjoyable film. Like I say, I'm glad I didn't watch it when I was 16, or it would have permanently changed me. I would not be the same person. I would have been, my personality would have been devoted to ginger snaps if I had watched this film when I was 16. But I'm very glad that I watched it now. I'm kind of tempted to watch the sequel and the prequel.
I started reading up the synopsis,
I
was like, you know what? No, I might actually watch it.
I reckon they're probably not good.
Apparently they are.
Apparently they are good.
Apparently they're both pretty good.
Okay, cool. Well, there you go. I watched the trailer for the second one, and I was like, nah.
It's got like 80% on Rotten Tomatoes.
You know what? Give it a watch. There you go. There's some
a sequel and a
interesting
prequel.
one that we could, So there's a sequel, and then the third film is like it's like set in the 19th century. It's like a proper like,
which is a
way back,
very interesting angle,
like folklore type of like folk horror sort of vibe.
But Emily Perkins and Catherine Isabel are back playing like
sisters
ancestors
again, I guess.
Their characters or something like that. I don't know.
I think they're still called the Fitzgerald sisters in that
one.
So interesting.
It's a fun angle, I guess.
There you go. I actually bought, because I like to own physical copies of all the films we cover, even stuff like the Fog remake. I'll try and get a physical copy when I can. It cost me like 99p off of eBay.
That's fair, yeah.
I probably could have paid someone to take it off. They would have paid me to take it off their hands, rather. So I bought this on DVD, but I actually bought the trilogy. Like, I bought the box set of all three. So I probably will wind up watching the other two at some point.
I will maybe pinch them off you at some point then.
Because I'm very interested to watch them.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I picked them up, because it's got special features on the DVD. And if I really enjoy a film, I want to go and watch all the special features. You were talking about setting up a Plex server for all of your Doctor Who DVDs.
Yes.
I'm thinking I might do that just the special features.
Yeah.
Just rip all the special features off of my DVDs and Blu-rays and stick them on a Plex server. Just have them watch them on my phone.
You can organize it nice and well. For those of you who don't know what a Plex server is, it's basically like local storage, but you can stream your local storage to all your devices and stuff as you do with like Netflix. And it's got a really good organization system as well, especially for movies. So you can add all like your behind the scenes and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you use code HappyBrothers10, you'll get 10% off. No,
it's free.
It's not sponsorship. It's not a sponsor. But I
mean, if it was, Plex, please sponsor us.
Please sponsor. Anyone, please sponsor us. We got going totally off topic from talking about ginger snaps. We got a very nice supporter on Ko-Fi.
Did we?
We haven't had that for a little while because we've not really been plugging Ko-Fi here. Right. We have one for just us in general, but we originally set it up for our previous podcast, Le Fraser. We had a nice sponsor with a lovely message saying that they enjoy the podcast.
Oh, that's lovely.
But it's probably not someone who listens to this podcast, because not many people do listen to this podcast. We're yet to find our audience with this one.
Yeah. The Fraser podcast still even though it's not active and hasn't been for like a good few months, it still gets more.
Maybe like 20 times the number of listeners as this podcast does.
It's fine. It's all good. So we stick at it. I'm having fun talking about horror films.
I'm having a great time talking about horror films.
And get to explore new ones like Ginger Snaps, which was, surprisingly enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because that's not really my jam. I'm not really kind of a goth guy.
You're not a goth guy?
I'm not big on the kind of goth films, the goth culture. So
I love a bit of goth.
a little bit apprehensive going into this, but
Yeah.
it was good. Really enjoyed it. Good
Yeah.
pick. Good pick.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that was werewolves.
Mhm.
Lycanthropes.
Yep.
I can never remember which one it is.
Lycanthropes.
You know why? There's a song by Mark Hoppus of Blink-182. I think it's called Lycanthrope,
Okay.
and I think that's why I keep getting them mixed up.
Okay.
Sorry,
No, it's fine.
showing my age.
Sure. Yeah, being into Blink 182 is still going.
I'm going to see them next week.
Are you?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
I yesterday went to a gig, and it was Amel and the Sniffers, the Australian punk band,
Okay.
who opened for Blink 182 at the Hella Mega Tour last year.
Wow.
There you go.
How's that for a connection?
It's like there's a little coincidence.
Yeah.
For you.
I love finding connections.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It was fun. It was a good gig. It was a good time.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad.
If you like a bit of punk music, go and listen to Amel and the Sniffers.
Amel and the Sniffers. What a name.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. Cool. Well, yeah, we had werewolves. It was good fun. Like a werewolfy film. There's plenty more.
There's
Again, it
loads
seems to
more.
be like, I will say, like, if there's any themes that I feel like there are more films we can do, I will mention it
Yeah.
to make sure you know that, like, that's not us. We're not
Yeah.
one and done with these themes. We can come back to them at some
Yeah.
point. There's plenty more werewolf films.
We'll do An American Werewolf in London at some point.
Yeah.
I don't think it has quite yet been. I don't think Ginger Snaps didn't quite manage to dethrone it
Do
as
that,
my favorite werewolf film.
Okay.
Um,
But close.
close. I imagine I probably will also give An American Werewolf in London 5 stars.
5 stars, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll need to do another werewolves at some point, so I can do that.
Yeah. But next week, we have a fun one.
Mhm.
One respecting and honouring one of the two kings of Hammer Horror,
Yeah.
Mr. Peter Cushing. Will be our theme. Just Peter Cushing is our
Peter
theme.
Cushing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The man himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, what have you got for us?
I had quite a few films that I was thinking about picking.
There's so many
picking
to pick
from.
from,
There
to
are
be
so
fair.
many. He's been in a lot of films.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of credits. Actually, yeah, worth mentioning. It's not quite. It almost lined up perfectly because I was looking at his Wikipedia page. It was the anniversary of his death on the 11th of
Oh.
August, so we've missed it by a couple of weeks.
Okay.
It's just a coincidence. That's not why we're doing
That's,
it.
yeah.
But it would have been nice if that had lined up.
That would have
but
been good,
Still,
yeah.
anyway, yeah, he had been in so many fucking films. I'm going to go for one of the franchises that he's best known for, but I'm not going for the first film in the franchise. I'm going to go for the last film in the franchise. I'm going to go for The Satanic Rites of Dracula
Oh, okay.
from 1974, I think. 73, 74.
Okay.
So you've got Christopher Lee as Dracula
Yep.
and Peter Cushing as not the original Van Helsing, but a descendant of Van Helsing, because it's now set in the modern day. It's also
Okay.
got Joanna Lumley in it.
Oh, I like Joanna Lumley.
Yeah. There you go. I've not seen it before. I'm excited to watch it.
Okay.
I've seen a few of the Hammer Draculas. I like a Hammer Dracula.
I think I've only seen the first one.
Yeah. The first
Which
one's
is
pretty
great,
good. The first
to be
one's
fair.
good.
Like, it's really,
The first one's
really
good.
fun.
So yeah, I'm excited to watch this one. It seems like it goes a little bit into the camp, but still seems to be a pretty well regarded entry in the franchise.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I'm excited.
Good pick. More vampires. Have we done vampires yet?
No,
Am I
we've done a
imagining
couple.
that?
We've done a couple of vampire films. We've not done vampires as a.
No, we did. What was the 30 Days a Night one?
That was comic books, comic book
books,
films.
wasn't it? Yeah. Cool. I'm a little bit disappointed because I was hoping you would pick another film because now I have to choose between two, and I thought you would pick one of them
Okay.
because our dad keeps banging on about this film and I've not seen it
Oh, okay.
and I'm gonna watch it.
If it's one that you've not seen, then I'm not sure. I thought you were going to say The House That Dripped Blood.
No. It's one that I've not seen. I think you've seen it.
Maybe.
Horror Express.
Oh yeah, I have seen Horror Express.
So I thought it was like a kind of murder mystery
No.
on a train.
No. It's a bit weird.
Looking at the synopsis, it is very much not.
Yeah.
It's a bit more wild. There's like aliens or monsters or something.
Yeah,
And it's
something like that.
Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee team up to stop them.
Mhm.
I'm on board. Choo choo.
All aboard.
All aboard the Horror Express.
Is that your pick then?
That's my pick for this week.
Horror Express.
Horror Express. I was wavering between that and Hound of the Baskervilles.
Oh, okay.
But to be fair, I'm kind of in the mood for Hound of the Baskervilles, so I might watch it anyway.
Okay, fair enough.
But we're talking about, Horror Express is my pick for next
I
week.
watched Hound of the Baskervilles not long, like very recently.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I think it was like New Year, so like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But still, recently enough that I probably wouldn't want to watch it again.
Yeah. Okay,
too
that's
soon.
fair then. That's
Horror
fair.
Express is a good choice. It's been a little while since I've seen that. It's a fun one.
Seems a bit wild. Looking
It's
forward to it.
Weird. It's like I remember going into it thinking it's like there's a monster on a train,
Yeah.
and even then being like, no, it's wilder than that. Like it's weird.
Cool. Excellent. I watched is it Terror Train? Watch the one with Jamie Lee Curtis.
That's Terror Train.
Terror
Yeah.
Train. I watched that not long ago. So I think that's where I'm getting my lines crossed, because that's kind of like a
That's like a slasher
on
on a train. Yeah.
Whereas this is, a bit more wild.
Mhm.
But cool. Couple of good picks.
Yeah, great. Horror Express.
Satanic Rites of
The
Dracula.
Satanic Rites of Dracula.
Satanic Rites of Dracula
Yeah.
and Horror Express.
Yeah. I was there were a few of the Amicus anthologies
Yeah.
I was tempted to pick from. House That Dripped Blood,
House
I know
of
we
Dripped
both
Blood's
love.
Great. Love it.
I was also tempted to go with Dr. Terror's House of Horrors.
Yeah.
Which was the first Amicus anthology and has Peter Cushing as the title character. He's like the crypt keeper, like the kind of wraparound. He's the one that sort of introduces all of the stories, so he has a much more prominent role than in House of Drip Blood. He's just like in one of the segments.
Yeah.
So I was tempted to go with that, or unfortunately, my favorite anthology, Amicus anthology, is the only one that doesn't have Peter Cushing in it. Otherwise, I probably would have picked that. Vault of Horror.
Vault of Horror.
Does have
It's Tom Baker.
it has Tom Baker, but unfortunately doesn't have
Peter Cushing.
doesn't have Peter Cushing.
But we've got Asylum. You already done Asylum.
I've got Asylum.
which
That's
had
got Peter Cushing.
in it.
That's good.
He was the best thing about that film.
He was.
Yeah.
I won't disagree with
He's
you.
the best thing about most films.
He's
that
really
he's in.
good. He's
to be
really
fair.
good.
He's just such an amazing actor.
He's so wonderful. He's so charming.
Yeah.
You know what I looked at? One of his, not one of his first roles, but one of his fairly early roles. He did a TV miniseries adaptation of Pride and Prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
He played
Mr. Darcy.
He played Mr. Darcy. I can imagine him as a Mr. Darcy, like especially young. He was like so kind of elegant and refined, but like as much as he only became particularly famous when he was a bit older, I can see him as being like pretty sexy as a Mr. Darcy figure.
Yeah. He was a bit of a silver fox.
Yeah,
And
he's a good looking guy.
He's got like
He's got those powerful cheekbones.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Incredible.
Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
Sharp cheekbones,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Him and Christopher Lee. What a power couple.
Yeah.
I miss them both.
one of the other films I was tempted to go for was The House of Long Shadows, which it was the two of them and Vincent Price and John Carradine.
Okay.
It had all four of them in it.
lineup.
And it's kind of like, it's a bit silly. It's kind of like a horror comedy, like not quite like a spoof, but I think it's like sort of a bit kind of parody, like playing on sort of tropes. I was tempted to go with that. I don't know if it's any good. I think it's just the fact that it's got the four of them in it.
Just watch it.
Just watch it anyway.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, that's us for this week. We will see you next time, where we honor the late great Peter Cushing. Not in like a memorial way, just in like a.
No, he's been dead for like 30 years.
He's been gone for quite a while.
But yeah, we still love him.
You still love him, and we're looking forward to watching some of his movies.
Yeah.
Cool. See you next week, folks.
Bye.